I'm saying that the Minister adequately addressed the supplementary question. That concludes question time. Would some honourable member care to move that the House take note of miscellaneous business?
Mr Speaker, I so
Materia
move.
Ture.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Paula Bennett will put children at risk of worsening illness as she leaves the House.
Order. It is not appropriate to refer to any member leaving the House. For those that are choosing to leave the House, would they please do so as quietly, because the member has every right to have her contribution heard. Materia Ture, start again.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Paula Bennett will put children at risk of worsening illness, inadequate health care and even risk maltreatment if she and her government continue to pass the welfare reforms, and they don't care. How do they know about these risks? Well, because the Ministry of Health told them over and over and over again. They provided briefings, changes to the text, advice to the Minister, pleas to the Minister that these reforms, the well-child compulsion, the severe financial sanctions, would cause beneficiaries and their children harm. So I want to go through some of that advice so that people out there can understand just how serious the Ministry of Health took these welfare reforms and their concern for child health. In May 2012, the Ministry of Health expects that income sanctions will have a negative impact on the health of sanctioned beneficiaries and their families. We predict that these people will defer health care. We predict that these people will increasingly present at emergency departments rather than primary care. They say costs to the health system will increase accordingly. Again in May, in track changes to an MSD cabinet paper, there are risks to the Well Child program if the checks are seen as a punishment or a sanction. One of the valuable traits of Well Child has been that it is non-threatening and has a high degree of public and family acceptability. Further emails were passed between MOH and the MSD over this. Over and over, the Ministry tells the Minister of Health and MSD that the sanctions will harm families. They even have to ask MSD to rewrite parts of their report. They say, MOH says, please replace the phrase MOH notes with the phrase, the Ministry of Health has a strong preference that engagement on the Well Child program does not become mandatory. The Ministry officials appeal to the Minister of Health, Tony Ryle, asking him to please put this information to the Welfare Reform Minister, saying the Ministry is concerned about such heavy financial sanctions being applied. We anticipate these sanctions would have a negative impact on the health of sanctioned beneficiaries and their families. We expect that those sanctions will be more likely to defer health costs, health care and present at emergency departments. We can do better to reach families not receiving Well Child checks by improving program delivery over and over. And just as one example of the draconian intention by MSD, in July, the Ministry of Health asked MSD to do this. Please remove the word surveillance. Please remove the word surveillance. The Well Child program is not designed or intended as a mechanism for surveillance of beneficiary families or indeed any families. It is a health promotion child development program that works on the basis of partnership and engagement between the practitioner and the parent and the child. Don't use it to investigate families. And despite the false claims by Paula Bennett that this compulsion is necessary for poorer families, the Ministry says there is no strong evidence that health-related social obligations are needed. And then months after months of persistent health advocacy for children, the Ministry of Health asks that the regulatory impact statement attached to the bill notes some key warnings, that the Well Child program itself could be threatened if it becomes mandatory, that sanctioned parents can face significant barriers to compliance, and finally, there will be some substantial negative impacts on families who ultimately face financial sanctions, not least because, as noted in the regulatory impact statement, child maltreatment and neglect is particularly sensitive to parental income, where lack of resources limits their ability to meet children's basic needs. Over and over and over, the Ministry of Health told the Minister of Health, the Minister of Social Development and the Ministry of Social Development that these financial sanctions for the World Child Checks, the welfare reforms, would cause children harm. They had solutions to increase the number of children who are registered with the World Child System. They had ways of delivering a decent and better program to those families. And this Paula Bennett knows that children will be harmed by her welfare reforms, and she will do it anyway.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, hands up all the members of this House who've realised in the last 48 hours that they are in possession of a foreign bank account